There are moments in our lives, there are moments in a day when we seem to see beyond the usual, become clairvoyant. We reach then into reality. Such are the moments of our greatest happiness. Such are the moments of our greatest wisdom. It is the nature of all people to have these experiences. It is only a rare few who are about to continue the experience and find expression for it. At such times, there is a song going on within us, a song to which we listen. It fills us with surprise. We marvel at it. We would continue to hear it. But few are capable of holding themselves in the state of listening to their own song. Intellectuality steps in, and as the song within us is of the utmost sensitiveness, it retires in the presence of the cold, material intellect. It is aristocratic and will not associate itself with the commonplace. And we fall back and become our ordinary selves. Yet we live in the memory of these songs, which in moments of intellectual inadvertence have been possible to us. They are the pinnacles of our experience. And it is the desire to express these intimate sensations, this song from within, which motivates the masters of all art. Robert Henri. The existence of things is not strange, but the power of perceiving this existence is, beyond comprehension, wonderful. When we first become conscious of our own existence, everything is new, everything delightful. We inquire not whence we came. We rejoice because we are. We find it impossible to control the tumultuous emotions of exultation and joy. We run. We scream, we leap. Chief Piomingo.
The laws of conscience, which we pretend to be derived from nature, proceed from custom. Custom establishes what we take for granted as natural, making strange things familiar and familiar things strange. It is a second nature that often blinds us to our true selves. We must reserve a little back shop, all our own, entirely free, wherein to establish our true liberty and principal retreat and solitude. Let us converse with ourselves about everything and laugh or cry, as if we had no one to depend on but ourselves. For we are an animal who cannot live without some form of companionship, even if it is with our own shadow. Montaigne. Thinking is like loving and dying. Each of us must do it for ourselves. Josiah Royce.
Let all things spontaneously flow and without violence. We are all equally human. Let us have but one end in view, the welfare of humanity. Jan Comenius Kamensky.
Trust your genius. Free your noble self. Josiah Royce. When you have shut your doors and darkened your room, remember never to say that you are alone, for you are not alone. But the divine is within, and your genius is within. And what need have they of light to see what you are doing? Epictetus. It makes absolutely no difference whether the biologists ever come to succeed in making living matter or not. That we can make a fire does not prove the world less divine, nor would the truth of things be less spiritual if we could also manufacture not only protoplasm, but whole whales or Shakespeare in our laboratories. Josiah Royce. Thought is a thread of melody running through the succession of our sensations. Charles Sanders Peirce. Sound, rhythm, silence, the material from which is fashioned the creative stuff of the universe. James Huneker. Were I a nightingale, I would act the part of a nightingale. Were I a swan, the part of a swan. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer you that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen. Epictetus. During every period of my life, I was working and studying and practicing and learning, trying to develop my artistic consciousness, trying to fit myself in 100 ways for my career. Work never frightened me. There was always in me the desire to express myself, and to express that self as fully and as variously as I might have opportunity for doing. Clara Kellogg. We must keep the flame of beauty burning. Music is the most appealing of the arts, and the human voice is the most exquisite music we know. Think of the pleasure that a beautiful voice can give. When the world is sane and beautiful once more, we will look back and realize how much music helped us to live through these abnormal times. Alice Nielsen. Only a few days were needed for the completion of my manuscript, when my parrot was taken seriously ill. Wagner.
Your intelligent ideas of things never consist of mere images of things, but always involve a consciousness of how you propose to act towards the things of which you have ideas. And the desired identity may be as the ideas which accompany the actions of people who sang, or who play in concert, involve musically interesting agreements and harmonies. Josiah Royce.
We are born to inquire after truth. It belongs to a greater to possess it. For a child, this means learning not just rote, but by engaging the world, asking questions, and forming their own judgments. Let their soul unfold itself naturally, through by trial and exploration rather than being forced into molds of dogma. Montaigne.
You know that I become stupid as soon as I am obliged to write for an instrument that I cannot endure. Mozart. In the fourth year, it is possible for some children to sing of themselves. The slower ones, however, ought not to be forced, but permitted to have a whistle, a drum, or pipes, so that by whistling, drumming, and piping, they may accustom their ears to the perceptions of various sounds. Blessed is the home where voices resound with music. Comenius.
The reward of a singer is beyond my power to describe. The most delightful people in society, art, science, and literature enter her life. Beyond and above all, she gives pleasure to thousands as well as herself. For if the delight of the hearer be great, how much greater must be the delight of the singer who bestows it. Clara Kellogg. I wonder if anybody besides singers gets such an extraordinary sense of contact and connection with members of their audiences. I have sometimes felt as if thought waves, reaching through the space between, held me fast to some of those who heard me sing. Lillian Nordica. Work is the best for all. Nobody ought to live without it. Appreciate the goodness and glory of being alive. I hope I do. I love to be alive and to play and to sing. If I please the people in front, they please me. And so God bless us all. Alice Nielsen.
Never shall I forget my first sight of the great theater, the curtain and the brilliant lights. Oh, that night! What rapture, the voices, the orchestra. I was possessed. I worshipped music. Charles Gounod.
Supper lasted a long time because after the nuts, sweet cakes with raisins were served. Some of the courtiers wished to dance, others wished to listen to the ribalds or to Danusia's singing. But she was tired, and having with great confidence put her little head on the knight's shoulder, she fell asleep. "Does she sleep?" asked the princess. "There you have your lady. She is dearer to me while she sleeps than the others are while they dance," answered Zbyszko, sitting motionless so as not to awaken the girl. "Sienkiewicz."
The mysterious joy I felt in hearing an orchestra play quite close to me still remains one of my most pleasant memories. The mere tuning up of the instruments put me in a state of mystic excitement. Wagner.
The term symphonic, which is so often sentimentally applied to the ideal life of society, is really descriptive. For the tendency of humankind from the beginning has been toward a functional blending and harmony, precisely like that among the choirs of an orchestra. The more harmony of their interplay, the higher and richer is the quality of life. Albert J. Nock.
After dinner were brought in fine musical instruments, all manner of kinds, and they would remain 4 or 5 hours in delight and disputation, not in foolish jesting, but in the true art of music. The gladsomeness was altogether present, for they delighted in music, in games, in natural play and sport. All their life was spent not in laws, statutes, or rules, but according to their own free will and pleasure. They rose out of their beds when they thought good. They did eat, drink, labor, sleep, when they had a mind to it and were disposed for it. None did awake them. None did offer to constrain them. François Rabelais.
I grew up mostly under the influence of nature, among the incidents of life and national calamities, free, unrestrained, forming my own judgment of things blindly, innocently, adorning and magnifying them with my vivid imagination. Helena Modjeska. Play is the purest, most spiritual activity, typical of human life as a whole, of the hidden natural life in all things. It gives, therefore, joy, freedom, contentment, inner and outer rest, peace with the world. We develop and manifest ourselves in play and reveal the noblest aptitudes and deepest elements of our being. We are in this world to be kind. Comenius.
Best medicine for our accomplished toil is festive joy, and the touch of songs. Wise daughters of the Muses hath power of comforting, for speech is longer lived than act, whensoever by favor of the graces the tongue has drawn it forth out of the depth of the heart. Pindar.
If you can spend a perfectly useless afternoon in a perfectly useless manner, you have learned how to live. Lin Yutang.
Once upon a time, in a land where the rivers hummed and the wind sang through the trees, the world was filled with music, but not all kinds. The frogs croaked their low rhythms by the ponds, the birds whistled their high notes in the treetops, and even the crickets scratched out fiddling tunes at night. But there was one sound missing, a sound so sweet and strange that no one had yet imagined it. Just past the gourd field, in a shady pawpaw patch where the fruit hung heavy and golden, up in a persimmon tree lived a clever possum named Wata. Wata was a peculiar creature. always searching for something new. He had sharp eyes, sharper claws, and the sharpest ears in the forest. He loved to sit among the pawpaws, munching on the ripe fruit, and dream about the music he could almost, but not quite, hear in the rustling leaves. One autumn evening, as the sun painted the sky in fiery oranges and reds, Wata heard a strange sound. It was faint, like the whisper of a breeze through the grass, but it carried a rhythm that made his whiskers twitch. Curious, he followed the sound through the pawpaw patch and into the shadowy woods. There, tangled in the roots of an old sycamore tree, Wata found a hollow gourd. Its surface was smooth and round, like a perfect moon, but it had a crack along one side where the wind slipped through, creating a low, mournful hum. Wata poked it with his paw, and the gourd rolled over, letting out a hollow plunk. "Well, now," said Wata, his bright eyes gleaming. "What sort of music lives in this strange thing?" He carried the gourd back to his favourite spot in the pawpaw patch, where he could think and tinker. For days he experimented. He tried hitting the gourd with sticks, scratching it with his claws, even dropping pawpaw seeds into it to see how they rattled. But it wasn't until he found some dried vines hanging from a tree that inspiration struck. "These vines are strong and springy," Wata mused. "What if I stretched them across the gourd?" So he did. He tied the vines tight, pulling them across the gourd's open side, and plucked one with his claw. It twanged like a bird's call. Delighted, Wata stretched more vines, each one a little looser or tighter than the last. Soon, he had a handful of notes that sang together in harmony, but something was still missing. Wata wanted to make music like the wind in the trees, but his claws alone couldn't play fast enough. As he sat nibbling on a pawpaw, the answer came to him: the seed. Using his clever claws, Wata carved a piece of wood into a long, flat fork. At the end, he fastened a round pawpaw seed, smooth and polished. He called it his picker. With it, he could pluck the strings of his gourd faster than ever before, creating a sound that made his tail twitch with delight. One evening, as the moon rose high over the forest, Wata sat in his persimmon tree in the pawpaw patch and began to play. The notes rolled out like ripples on a pond, sweet and strange, making the leaves shiver and the stars seem to dance. The other animals heard the music and came creeping through the shadows to see what was happening. The raccoon stopped washing his food to listen. The deer froze mid-step, and even the fox paused his nightly hunt to hear Wata's song. "What magic is this?" asked the owl, swooping down from her perch. "No magic," said Wata, grinning. "Just a little cleverness and a lot of vines." The animals begged him to play another tune, and then another. All night long, Wata played his gourd with its vine strings, and the animals swayed and stomped and twirled to the music. They named his invention Banjo, after the twangy sound it made, though over time it came to be known as Banjo. The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight lit up the pawpaw patch, the animals made a decision. "Wata," said the old turtle, speaking for them all. "You must share your banjo with the world. No creature should go without hearing this marvelous sound." Wata hesitated. He loved his banjo dearly and wasn't sure he wanted to part with it. But as he looked around at the joyful faces of his friends, he realized that music was meant to be shared. So, Wata taught the other animals how to make their own banjos. He showed them how to find the best gourds, stretch the strongest vines, and carve the smoothest pickers from pawpaw seeds. Soon, the forest was alive with the sound of banjos, each one a little different, as every animal added their own twist. The frogs made tiny banjos from acorn caps, the raccoons added extra strings to their gourds, and the birds plucked at vines with their beaks, creating high, trilling notes. Even the bear, with his clumsy paws, managed to build a banjo so big it echoed like thunder when he played. As for Wata, he became known as the Banjo Possum, the first musician of his kind. He spent his days wandering the forest, teaching others the secrets of his music and playing for whoever would listen. And if you ever find yourself in a pawpaw patch, just past the gourd field at the persimmon tree, on a quiet evening when the moon is high, you might hear a faint twang in the wind. Some say it's just the breeze in the vines, but others swear it's Wata himself, still strumming his banjo, sharing his music with the world. And so, the sound of the banjo spread far and wide, carried on the wind and in the hearts of those who heard it. To this day, its joyful twang reminds us of the clever little possum who first dreamed of a music the world had never known.